I'm genuinely curious. Men seem to have a very different approach to friendship than women do, and while I have guy friends, their friendships with other guys seem different than they are with me or any other woman we know mutually. Sometimes I feel like things are more understood between them tacitly, and like they don't have to talk everything out. Or maybe I don't ever see that side of things. I know society doesn't really let guys be vulnerable that much at all. Story 1. I've had many friends of both genders over the course of my life, and the way men and women approach friendships is in general quite different. In short, men bond by doing things together. This is common knowledge, but I think by doing shared activities, we men show each other that we are trustworthy and capable, and that leads to bonding. For example, before the pandemic, I would get together weekly with different groups of male friends, always to do something in particular, like play games or watch football. Most of the conversation would be about the activity we are doing, and not about each other. After the activity, that's when we sit around the couches and talk about our lives. I think that in modern society there are not many natural opportunities for men to bond this way, and therefore men don't develop the male bonds they would like to have. This also leads to men not having other men that they feel comfortable being vulnerable with. Story 2. I think there was an experiment done years ago where men and women were asked to visualize same-sex friendships, and while women preferred face-to-face, men were more side-to-side, meaning built through shared experiences. That might be one reason bonds between teammates, comrades, etc. are so strong. Story 3. Mostly centered around mutual interests and activities. Lots of playful banter to make your friends laugh. I don't talk to my friends about really intense emotional stuff often, though I know that I can. My friends have moved all over the country, and we get by on group chat and occasional trips to hang out. It doesn't matter how long it's been. Within minutes of meeting up, it's like no time has passed. Story 4. Boys can go years without talking to each other. One day you get a "what's up, dude?" and you grab some beers, hang out, and most of the time nothing will have changed. Once boys, always boys. In front of each other, you can tease and borderline bully one another, but behind the scenes, you would have their back no matter what. You don't need to physically be there for someone to be there for them. Don't need to talk about stuff to relate to what's going on. You just know. Sometimes, if things are tough, you show up with a six-pack and just hang out, watch the game. We had an overweight friend. We started calling him Fat Ass about 10 years ago. He got so upset with us that he lost his weight for us to stop. Still thanks us and tells that story today. Story 5. Men can just nod to each other a certain way and we get it. We don't waste our best insults on people we don't like. Only our friends can appreciate the mental effort it takes to come up with a good insult. Why waste that on someone who can't appreciate it? That's like sending a homemade Christmas card to the mean girl from school. Story 6. Me to my guy friend who does not know his dad. Hey man, I think I saw your dad in the milk aisle today. He should be coming back soon. Us both laugh hysterically. He makes a joke about one of my insecurities. We laugh more and even harder. Me to my female friends, internally thinking not to say the wrong thing or speak about any of her insecurities. This has happened a couple of times with good friends. Something very minimal, just trying to get a laugh and poke fun, turned into a serious issue, which left me apologizing profusely. We just kind of understand each other's intentions more, I think. Sometimes there is no deeper meaning other than a good laugh. Story 7. I have a female and a male best friend. I'll put it this way. Years ago, I was going through something really rough. After a while, I opened up to them about it, which was probably the one and only time in my life I told anyone about the difficulties I was experiencing. You know who your real friends are when your life is chaos. I'm very lucky that they both cared, but their approach was very different. The girl called me almost immediately and wanted to talk about it. She checked in daily, offered advice, would go out of her way to talk negatively about my ex, and would ask me out to eat and to the movies and to indulge in pastries. The guy showed up at my apartment with a few of my favorite beers but didn't even come in. He just handed them to me, gave me a hug, said, "I love you, brother. Call me if you need anything," gave me a nod, and left. Now, I love them both, and their caring meant more than I could ever express in words. But if I had to choose, I preferred his approach. Yes, society pressures men into not being vulnerable, but sometimes, maybe most times, we don't really want to. It's nice to just take a step back and have a moment of introspection. To the people confused that he just left, it wasn't as brief as I make it sound here. Plus, I told him through text that I didn't want to hang out that day. I called him a few days later and bought him some beers and we talked it over. For those saying they'd prefer my female friend's approach, that's fine too. We all have different ways of coping. I love her. We've been through thick and thin together, and she's an amazing friend. Just pastries weren't really what I needed that time. Story 8. Lots of insults. Lots of insults. Everything from your weight to your looks to your sexual preferences. Nothing is off limits when it's about you. Your significant other is mostly off limits unless it's really funny. If one of us is going through something difficult, the others are there. Mostly to distract and make fun of you, but also to listen and have your back no matter what. Hit a rough spot and you're short on cash? Come on, you broke fool, we're going out on me. Here's what I can give you right now, use it however you need it. Car broke? We're staying up all night to fix it. Someone died? Come on over. Don't have to say a word if you don't want to, we'll just watch TV. Being foolish and messing up? You're gonna hear about it. Story 9. Since expressions of affection are sort of awkward, you just overshoot it by almost acting absolutely playful for each other. So it all has this undercurrent of being tongue-in-cheek. And I don't mean giving someone inappropriate gestures. Then there's antagonism and insults, which are generally understood to also be kidding. Usually, either the opposite of the insult is true, calling a thin guy a fatty, or it's total exaggeration, calling a thin friend who ate a lot of food a fatty. But if a friend or anyone really was overweight, I would never call them fat. My male friends are also forthcoming in talking about emotional issues honestly. There's no excessive masculinity, because that's pointless and useless. Story 10. Occasional battles of wits, usually about complete nonsense and all in good fun. Seeing if I can, for example, argue with my friend about orange not being a color or traffic cones should be illegal comes to mind. Just having a completely nonsensical and absurd conversation that we both understand for hours until we get bored and then playing Ultimate Fighting Championship afterwards. Story 11. Less sharing of feelings, more ideally good-natured ribbing and sharing of practical advice. I'm not sure this is as terrible as some people make it out to be. Sometimes I want to solve problems instead of dwell on them. On the very dude bro side of the spectrum, if you can stomach it, you can look at Bill Burr and his friends or the folks in Top Gear or the Grand Tour. Lots of that stuff, but Bill chokes up when talking about his dead friend Patrice and the fundraiser he holds for his family, and Jeremy Clarkson did the same when his show came to an end. Story 12. I was a part of my high school play one year, and with everyone around me being drama kids, often at practice it would be hard to be productive because everyone kept bringing up their personal problems all the time. One day the director and drama teacher said, "That's enough. Keep our baggage at home. This isn't the place for that." I feel men often default to this thinking. If, say, a group of guys goes out for drinks, there won't be any sharing because this is a time to have fun. This doesn't mean they ignore their problems, just that men have an unspoken agreement that we will enjoy this time while we have it, and if you still need some help later, they will totally be there for it. I don't know if I'd describe it as living in the moment, but trying to have respect for the other person's time. They expected to have fun, not to cry with you. That said, I would gladly sit down and cry with a guy friend if he needed it, just at the right time. Story 13. I am 50 and so is my best friend. We have been together for about 40 years. We have been through everything you can imagine life can throw at you. Girlfriends, weddings, kids, deaths, you name it. We just started working together last year, and now we get to see each other every day. It is great. We really don't need to say much, but when we do, someone is usually laughing. Other than my wife, he is the person I feel I can be closest to the real me. We have seen each other at our lowest, and it is great to know someone has your back no matter what. Story 14. With the male friends I am closest with, we have learned to talk about deep things as we've gotten older. Yes, we still do silly things, and when we were younger, we had occasional moments of vulnerability, but we're at a point now where simply talking about what we've done during our week, talking about superficial topics, only lasts so long in a conversation. Then we talk about deep subjects. It is not a pity party. Deep does not mean bad, but we can talk candidly about problems. Other deep topics can relate to our mutual interests or a shared experience where we can go back and talk about things with the benefit of hindsight. Story 15. I like what other Reddit users have said about bonding over shared experiences. Totally agree with that. When the guys and I hang out, we're usually drinking beer, playing video games, or helping each other out with projects. We don't talk about our personal lives all that much. Story 16. It's saying gay stuff to each other as a form of complimenting them and insulting each other, like you want to kill them but still knowing you love each other. Story 17. We can make fun of each other as much as we want, as long as there isn't a girl we're trying to impress around. When I walk into their house, I could get punched in the face, handed a beer, or hugged. Sometimes all at once, and somehow I'm all right with all of them. Drunk cuddles, also known as the thing only second to cuddling your significant other. And a 50% chance of every male at a party ending shirtless with no sexual intent whatsoever. Story 18. I don't remember where I saw it, but I once saw a comment that said, "Women talk nicely to each other's faces but talk badly behind each other's backs. Men talk badly to each other's faces but talk nicely behind each other's backs." Now, I can't speak for the female part of it, but it's absolutely true on the male side. I can call any of my friends various insults, and they'll either laugh about it or say one back. However, if someone were to talk badly about them when they weren't around, I'd stand up for them. I don't know why men's friendships work like this, but they do. Story 19. Male best friend relationships are good. We play around, yet we really enjoy each other. We may insult each other or mess around, but we guys enjoy each other. I wouldn't say love because that's very strong, but there is a reason the quote brothers before hoes exists. Despite the fact I'm not totally on board with that quote. Brothers are brothers and we stick together. Story 20. We insult each other and mess around a lot, but we always have each other's backs. When some of my friends or I were going through a rough patch, we were there for each other. We can be manly, but it's nice to get emotional here and there too. Sometimes we would just stay up from 10 at night to 8 in the morning gaming and chatting. That honestly really helped both my friends and me. It was always cool though. My friends would ask questions like, "Does she make you happy?" when it came to relationships, whereas entertainment and media like to portray us talking about how good of a partner someone is or their number of partners. I never had a friend ask about my sex life. They just asked if I was happy. I think with each generation, we're breaking away from that stereotypical idea of masculinity, which is great. Even the biggest and toughest guy still has feelings. Story 21. Amazing. I have some close friends that are like brothers. When it's that close, you talk about anything, cry about anything, laugh about anything. There's no judgment. Man or woman, we all strive for that kind of unconditional love in our lives, as we are all flawed. Story 22. For me personally, I have a good handful of really close male friends. Each of those relationships is extremely different. A few of them and I talk constantly about everything. Some friends are the type where we can go years without seeing each other and pick right back up on extremely sensitive subjects. On the other end of the spectrum, one guy in particular is an old roommate. We rarely talked about anything personal. If we did, it was always short and summarized as succinctly as possible. My girlfriend cheated on me, and that was it. While we both knew that we could talk about anything, I know that he really appreciated that I didn't push him to talk. It was clear what he did want to talk about and what he didn't. Talking just wasn't his way of processing. We're close enough to unashamedly say "I love you" because we respect each other's needs and space. Story 23. Males can be together happily for hours without speaking a word. This probably comes from millennia of hunting together quietly so as not to disturb the game, or staying quiet while defending from or stalking our enemies. There is a lot of talk about insults between male friends, but it is not that way for me or my friends at all. We're all around 60, though I do remember doing that in my 20s. Laugh out loud. Story 24. Yes. We respect each other's boundaries. We assume the best intentions of each other. We forgive each other for accidentally poor word choice. Acknowledge mistakes before there's a chance for them to be pointed out. No need to talk things out. If there's a problem, it will be very clear. No guesswork in communication. Story 25. My best friend since third grade and I are now 56 years old. I have not spoken to him this year. I think we exchange a happy birthday text and maybe one 10-minute phone call a year. This is how our best friendship works. My two best friends that I talk to weekly, one daily, are both women. Story 26. Talking to them is never a chore. You'll have good and bad times, but you'll click more often than not. The conversation may be going nowhere, but you're both happy to go there together. Story 27. My best friend and I love each other with all our hearts. He and I have traveled all over the country together in cars, trains, and planes. We know everything about each other. I'm not sure why some other individuals feel it necessary to put a wall between themselves and their best friend emotionally in an attempt to maybe seem more masculine. But I believe everyone needs a best friend like I have. I wouldn't be here without him,